be a good idea to get that list of 81 sites. I know we all have it. I have it, I know. And get it and show these people, look, you are on the list. Because see, what they're tricking them into believing is the old process didn't work, where we came in and said, you're it, or you're it. And it's going to be one of you three. So there's time they're saying, we're just going to look for a community that wants to volunteer. But we can't do that unless we change the state law.
Is there any way that,
unfortunately.
You mentioned about getting the people to vote. Is there any clause in there, or any way we can get the people within the community to vote on that?
Well, see, that's another important point, because they did say a public referendum after I insisted on it, but there is a discrepancy between should it be the township, the city, or the village, or should it be countywide? And I firmly believe countywide, because, it is too easy for industry to pour in tons of money into the smallest community, and bring in their so-called experts and scientists and all these kind of people.
That raises a question that I've had for quite some time: is the what constitutes a volunteer community when it comes down to the bottom line?
Right, that's what I'm saying, is it's actually a public referendum is what the Board of Governors said, but they all said like the smallest entity, and I said countywide. And I'm sticking with that, because the whole county is impacted.
I don't even see how we
The
can...
county's going to have to build roads and everything
Well,
else.
exactly, and they also, it's the county health department, it's the county drain commission, and
It's for the whole state of Michigan. And it affects, with our water lands affect far broader than the state. I mean, it seems to me that we have to at least take there's nobody else that's looking at well, there are plenty of people who would care about the environmental considerations, but, I mean, we're not going to be credible unless we embrace the actual pathways that the question of radioactive waste call into question. So in other words, if it can lead to Canada, why shouldn't the Canadian people, I mean, I'm just saying that we have to look really at what it really affects.
Well, we have two different strategies. We have a strategy for the legislature to hear from us when we're actually up there testifying, and they're going to tune you right out with that, every place in Michigan, I don't want to hear that, Canada, I don't want to hear that. But if you say, look, the entire county's impacted because they have the health department, they have the drain commission, and you can point to in Martinsville how you had a local community that voted for it and countywide opposed it, and then you had two jurisdictions, two governmental bodies that have to cooperate fighting with each other, and that site was eventually thrown out because you couldn't have that. So that's something they'll understand.
So all I'm saying is that, okay, you're right, that you focus in on the site that's under consideration, but there's a pathway where that waste has to get there. People have been using that very effectively in talking about transportation of high-level waste across the country and so forth. And basically what it does is turn every state into a waste dump because it leaves waste on the way there. So there's direct effect that you can bring. Which I'm not advocating you just say, well, there's the whole state, so let's not look. I'm saying you prioritize it, and then you say, and not only do we have the county, but all the counties that are affected by the transportation of that and so forth. I mean, it's in other words making connections.
Henry, but then you run into the case, and this is the argument they always give me. Well, but right now we're transporting it to Barnwell, so it's on the road anyway.
Yeah, well, I got problems with that too.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm just saying that strategy is not going to work.
I wonder how the hurricane affected Barnwell.
The hydrogeologic region is something that should be provable by our marvelous science committee, and it does specify and put a tag on what we're talking about, so that even the size of the buffer area, for instance, is that the hydrogeologic region. So they should be able to prove with scientific data.
Well, I have a few little tricks up my sleeve when it comes to the legislature, if it ever gets that far, that I'm going to blow them right out of the water on that groundwater thing.
Yeah.
But,
Groundwater and
strategy.
What vehicles are going
And
to get us there?
aquifer.
What do we need to do? Do any resolutions need to come out of this? And
what
Well, I think we
strategies
should have
that...
a resolution condemning this report, number one.
And what should be the reasons?
Well, the reason is that these people are handpicked by the Engler administration, and that 5 out of 6 of them work for industries or work for nuclear waste producers. So this is not an unbiased report by any means.
Okay, do you care to frame such a
I could,
resolution?
I could.
I'll make a note to get it.
The first thing would be that the board is not unbiased.
You want to take a few minutes out to do that?
Yeah, I don't know if I can write the whole thing right now.
Is there some points that you wish to make
Yeah,
within it that we could
first at the
approve
end.
the spirit of the
Yeah.
resolution and trust that you will...
Right, and I'd get a copy to you, you know, of the
And then we
final
can pass
approval or
it based
whatever.
on the statement you made.
Right. First of all, the Michigan Environmental Science Board is not an unbiased group of scientists.
And what criteria do we have, or specifics do we have to verify that?
They all, under
Cite
that,
their employment?
they all work for nuclear waste producers except for one.
5 or 6 of them.
Who sought on
5 or 6 of them
course.
work for nuclear industry.
Yeah.
Other
They're
I
questions?
could
different
choose, I prefer to say nuclear waste producers
That's right.
because Michigan State and U of M are not the nuclear industry, but they do produce nuclear waste.
Are there other components?
The board basically only heard testimony from the nuclear industry or from the NRC.
That's
Yeah.
another reason, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. When was this, when did they have some kind of a hearing? When did this happen?
They held their meetings from October of last year through, I believe, well, the report came out, I think, in July. I think the last meeting was in February.
There were only 2, weren't there?
What?
A total of 2?
Oh, no,
meetings?
there was
3.
4 or 5, I think.
Oh.
I attended 3 of
Okay,
them.
what did the Nuclear Regulatory Commission have to say?
NRC, oh my gosh, that was so interesting. This Mark Thager from the NRC, and this is just unbelievable, and I've got this in minutes of the meeting too. These scientists were trying to get a grasp on this because they didn't have a clue what they were looking for. And so he said to the guy from NRC, was asking him about, well, how would this work if you did this, you know, how would you go about characterizing a site, and how would you find out where the dose limits were at the boundary and all of this stuff? So Mark Thager said, well, first you would choose your computer model you're going to use. You'd have to identify what program you were going to use. Then you would gather your data and you would run it through the program, and you would hope that you would get the answers that you wanted. And if you didn't, then you would gather more data and run it again. And the guy from the Legislative Service Bureau that was sitting next to me had never attended one of these meetings before. Usually they send Karen East. This guy looks at me, and I looked at him, and I didn't know who he was at the time, and I said, isn't this absolutely unbelievable? And he goes, I said, aren't these the craziest bunch of people you've ever seen? And he said, I thought it was just me. And I said, oh no, take it from one who's been to 1 million of these meetings. These people are always like this. And he says, how many times are you supposed to do that? I says, well, either till you get the answer you want or you run out of money.
Which you never do.
What other criteria? We've got a motion, trying to get a motion to the floor.
The data is incomplete, and you listed a whole lot of ways where the data is incomplete.
Okay.
Like what? What'd you say?
Well, the geologic information of any of these sites. That includes the groundwater and the way it interacts with the site itself, and also the aquifers, because those are very different items. And we have to be careful they don't redefine the idea of aquifer as they tried to do at Martinsville.
Disposal is not, is just displacement. There is no such thing as disposing of it.
Yes, good point. The
You
language.
You do not dispose of nuclear waste.
Okay, so we can, with that, we could include language. The language used indicates, what do you say, an incomplete... Misleading and incomplete analysis of the situation.
Well, Let me see, I'm gonna have a hard time getting those down, I mean, those
Yeah.
last two.
Well,
How can I put that?
Well, it
Problem
must
is that-
insist on proper scientific language.
the problem is, I suppose, for me, is that I haven't like read the report, and usually, you can find some choice examples of something, and
This report will take you about 5 minutes to read,
Uh-huh.
the page, the conclusions, I mean, these.
well, no,
things are
what I'm saying is like to look for a good example of how they've misused the language.
Okay.
Yeah, let
Could I
me,
ask that Terry be in touch with Corrine
yeah.
to draft the fine tuning of this?
Corinne, give me your phone number,
We have a-
361-6169.
361-6169.
616 is the area code.
616, okay. And is there, like, if I ever want to write a press release on behalf of Don't Waste Michigan, is there a group of people I run it by for?
Okay, one thing at a time. Can we
Okay.
please work through this one here?
Okay,
Okay.
well, I thought that was the end of what we were doing.
This is the spirit of the resolution, these items, and you'll work with Corrine to develop the fine tune. I'd like to put a motion on the floor at this time to approve the spirit of this resolution containing to be worked out by Corrine.
I'll second it.
I think if anyone else has input,
Yeah,
they
call
can
me.
contact too.
Friendly amendment?
I'll second.
Further discussion?
I even second it.
Okay,
Second.
I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, now back to your question about press release.
Right, if I ever come to that point where we want to write a press release or something, I think it's necessary, who do I run it by?
Well, there are co-chairs of Don't Waste Michigan. We're kind of in a administrative predicament because we're beyond when we should have had elections. But the old co-chairs, I know that Mary was one, Chuck Barbieri was another, I know that you were
Oh, yeah.
one,
And so is,
Harold Stokes,
Yeah.
and I think there was a fifth, Mary Johnston.
Yeah, right.
Okay, got Mary's number.
I think
Got Mary's number.
personally, because we're separated so much and we're all working so hard in our own areas, that pretty much we can rely on you if you think it's significant to just go ahead with it. I mean,
Okay.
I am so buried in my work that if I were to had to get approval from a bunch of people every time I took a step, I couldn't do it at all. I just could not. I couldn't afford the phone calls
Yeah.
and everything else, because
And time involved.
what I am doing already drains me, you know.
Well, I think we've established a framework under which, and you know that the mission statement of the organization and anything that would fall within that and fall within what we do approve, I would see as fair game to be making comments on.
All right.
If
I
you-
would definitely contact some other people.
If you're gonna go beyond the scope of what we've
anything.
already established, then I would
Mhm.
say get in touch with the co-chairs
Okay,
in the absence of a meeting.
all right.
Or if you
Sounds
yourself
good.
know that there are some issues that others need to know about once
Right.
it hits the press, it's more than a courtesy to
Yeah.
Yeah.
talk to people.
Sure.
Okay, does that help get you where you need to go?
Sure.
Is this report available to the public if you
Oh,
like
heck yes.
Oh,
to?
yes.
Got a couple
Are there any
copies
other
myself.
documents
That's
that
one thing
one
there.
could ask for at the same time?
Did you ever get the Board of Governors report? Because that's what the legislation's gonna be based on.
Yeah, I did, I think.
Okay. And then this is just saying our criteria is no good, basically.
Uh-huh.
Okay, can we get any current transportation issues, anything pertaining to Barnwell? Is this stuff going over highways now? What do we need to be alerted to?
It is going.
It's being
Isn't it going
shipped,
now?
yeah.
Do
Started
we
being
have
shipped
route
last
maps?
summer.
Yeah, oh yeah, they jumped on it as soon as it opened up. They were ready to ship, and they were encouraged to do so by the producers.
But you know what? That's gonna put us in a bad position if we say anything about that. You know, I mean, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And in this case, I think you might be better off just to remain silent. Because if
Well, we
it's,
should know for our own information what these routes might be.
oh, I have no idea what they are. I mean,
How
probably
would
the
we find
major
out?
highways,
We
I'm
don't
sure.
have to
There is a
necessarily
map.
comment to find out information.
Oh, yeah, and I don't, you know, you
Let's-
can find out information on it.
I've seen a
Because,
map.
when the crunch comes down to it, there is no damn solution for this.
No,
And-
there isn't.
And that's what we're gonna have to point that hard fact out and find a creative and inspirational way
And
to do
another
so.
thing, when you call the state representatives, you might point to my minority opinion in there about no nuclear power plants in this state. They're scheduled to come offline, and let's not bring any new ones online.
There won't be any new ones coming online.
Well, they fought hard to even prevent, they didn't even want that in the report, Mike.
Didn't want to say so.
Right.
That's
That's right.
insane.
The bottom line, we have taken a position, did call for an accelerated phase out of nuclear power.
Right.
And you gotta stop producing this stuff.
Right.
Yeah, but it's gotta be in reports, so, and I think
gotta be in
her
writing.
point is real important. It's not just what the position we took. We've got to also take a stand before our state legislators.
Yeah, let them at least put that in.
Yeah, see if we can't get something in there, and I think that's what Terry Gill was working on, and I think we've got to support that, and every one of us want that. It's not but the thing is, we've got to try to get something into the state legislature, the people who are gonna elect this stuff in there, and we better explore every way we can to get it in there, Mike. That's how I feel.
Yes,
So it's
but I
not-
don't,
It's not that we haven't taken the right position.
no, but what you mentioned is, do we remain silent
On the
at the risk
transportation.
of, if we do speak up, we appear schizophrenic on this issue?
Yeah, except
But
that,
we cannot advocate sending it to Barnwell. We can't advocate
No.
the further production of it. And we will be called on that question because other members of the anti-nuclear community are asking that question regarding high-level waste. So it's a fine line we've got to walk.
and it's really hard too, because right now it is going to Barnwell, and it could go to DOE facilities, and also EnviroCare in Utah is making a play for all of it. And it is hard. If you want to prevent it from coming in the state, sometimes off the record, I am going to have to say to these people, look, it is going to EnviroCare anyway. And I'm not going to lie to you, I do say that to people off the record, because it's a fact. I mean, it is already going there.
Yes, well, it's a fact, but we're not advocating.
No,
So
no, we don't advocate.
clear that we don't end up in that type of a role.
Exactly.
Because we'll take heat from our own members. Okay, can we, any further on low-level waste?
Well, I had a question about, it said about the strategies to alert the public, Michigan Counties Association. And, I think that if somebody knows something about the Michigan Counties Association, that might be helpful
Yeah,
because
what is that?
I know,
Yeah, I drafted the agenda, and I put that in there. In the past, didn't we run things through this Association of Counties to alert them to this legislation that's coming along?
What happened was that the Board of Governors set up focus groups, and one of them was the Michigan Association of Counties, and the other one was held at the Michigan Township Association with those members. And these are the people that, will be asked to comment on new legislation. And at that time, I'll make sure that it does go to the Michigan Association of Counties, and that they hear from us through my county commissioners, and hope to God, win the election, I could be one of them, and then I'd sit on that board. But even if I don't, I'll make sure that they get it, and the Township Association too, because it
Ellen
works for
Beal did
those.
some groundwork on that years back, and as a county commissioner, had contact with the Association of Counties. But I don't know, is there any possibility of an update, or is she still around, or?
Well, she's around, but I mean, your contact with your county.
Yeah, and I know
Yeah, it
Ron
would be
Wilson,
different.
from, I mean, he knows who I am. People in the state kind of know who I mean, I can do that, I can get them information if I have to.
Yeah, I think she can do it now.
Okay.
And then she's got the update of.
And I mean, you can't do it until the bill is out, because I'm just guessing what's in this bill,
I want to make one comment here. I stayed over in one of those meetings with that Board of Governors there, and one of the last people to leave, and Thor was Strong, was asked, I'm not sure if I asked or somebody else asked the question. He mentioned that there was one township at the Board of Township meeting where they were looking into whether they wanted to accept waste, but he would not reveal.
Yeah.
He would not reveal that township.
They have some sites. They have some people that are interested, and their initial expressions of interest. And so if they can get this legislation through, they'll be going out to those people. And see, this is why it's so crucial who votes. Because You know, you could have somebody on a township board interested. But can you get enough people in the county to vote for that, or can you get the entire township to vote for it, or whatever? And so they're going to have some initial expressions of interest, and they're going to take their little dog and pony show on the road if they get this,
Okay.
legislation. But that's where we strike back, because now we have all kinds of information too over the last, I don't know however many years.
I want to add one more thing to that statement, because you brought this up before. We have a very similar situation that happened in Wayne County with the landfill there. Here you have probably the largest landfill in the state of Michigan now, built in Carlton Farms, in the state's largest populated area in Wayne County. We have a square mile that's going to be devoted just for handling waste, and some of that's going to be hazardous waste because it's coming from incinerators. That was sold to the community of Sumter Township and Wayne County even helped to negotiate that darn thing.
Was it a referendum countywide though?
No, it wasn't a referendum countywide, and that's what I want to emphasize, and I want to back you up on this. Because they now are getting $2 million a year for accepting waste in that community. 3 years prior to that, they were vociferous, really mad because their facility was used, their township was being used for a waste dump site. But now come along, and you can go ahead, offer enough money, and you buy them out. And I testified at this one meeting, really strongly objecting to this, and I wasn't sure I was even going to come out of there as a whole person. Because I was up near the front, and I'd had to pass through all these people leaving. They flooded this meeting with people who they could see this big money coming into them. So it's very, very essential that you do not allow a township who's going to be offered piles of money in order to build a nuclear site. That's even far worse than building this landfill.
Isn't the reality of townships in Michigan that they're basically handmaidens to the county anyway? I know in Ontonagon County that's the way it works.
Well, you got to make sure if it goes before a county vote too, we've got to have a way of reaching all the communities within that county, and that's the process I'm right in now, dealing with a solid waste issue, because they're trying to change the county plan to force every community, unless you host a landfill, every community now will have to start incinerating waste in Wayne County.
Well, there's that other bill's coming up.
And they're trying to push it through as fast as they can by that fast track method. And that's why environmental organizations have really got to work together.
And
that's why CAC, and that's why Don't Waste Michigan, and everyone else has got to find out got to know. And when something like this, Don't Waste Michigan or any other group, when they see something happen within their county, damn it, we got to back each other up, because we can lose this battle so darn many ways. And that's why I say, and one of the things I think we should do is bring in this, and Mike's going to bring this up later on, and I think that is, we got to coordinate far better, and we got to get MEC. I don't know how we're going to do this. We're going to have to back MEC on any issue coming up that's going to have a major impact on the citizens here.
Good, we need to move. I would like to get on to the presentation on high-level waste, and then Mary.
Okay, I guess you know that Don't Waste Michigan joined Lake Michigan Federation in filing a 2.206 petition with the NRC on the fact that that cast number 4 that's defective hadn't been unloaded, a year after they said they were going to unload it. That was we filed it on September 19th, 1995. And we said that because they hadn't unloaded it till this time, and they had indicated the kinds of problems that they had when they start thinking about unloading it, that they never had. They met the criteria that they were supposed to have for the certificate, and that is to know how to unload the cask. So we have waited all this time to get some kind of resolution on this 2.206 petition, and all they have done is call us periodically and tell us they're working on it. There's been exchange of documents between consumers and the NRC as they have continued to try to refine what process they're going to use for unloading. But consumers keep saying, well, our initial unloading procedure was adequate, but we're enhancing the procedures. But actually, they didn't know how to do it. They're still doing it. But the main thing is that in January, the Attorney General asked to become a part of our petition, the 2.206 petition. And you all should know that when the appeals court decision came down in, I think, January of '94, that the appeals court said that we were not without recourse or remedy for the safety issues that we had raised, which they did not want to address. And they said what we should do is write a 2.206 petition to the NRC to address the safety issues directly to the NRC. So in effect, the NRC is not only unresponsive to us, they're unresponsive to the court. And that is what I'm working on with the Attorney General right now, to see if he will write to the court to say we've waited this long, we've had this petition in, this was your judgment and ruling in your decision, and the NRC is not acting on it, to see if there could be some other pressure put on the NRC. But meantime, the Attorney General tried to get to be a part of the petition, and they denied him the right to be a petitioner. And yet he's the only elected official we have. Everybody else.
What basis?
They said there's no process yet. They hadn't made a determination about a process, but they're exchanging documents all the time, you know. So so now what happened, of course, is very significant, is in May of 28th, there was an explosion at the Point Beach plant. And what the NRC determined was that that explosion was caused by the hydrogen being generated as a reaction between the zinc coating that's on the inside of the metal basket and the boric acid that's in the spent fuel pool water, which is still
Residual.
no, it's still when they start unloading, start the unloading process, the first thing they do.